bang, boom, bam. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Nerd Ledger. We're your host. I'm Kaje, and that is Chair.
Chair.
Yeah, actually, you can't. Oh, wait, I clicked start streaming. Oh well, we're streaming, maybe, perhaps. Who knows? Um, if it starts breaking things, we won't be streaming anymore. Um, but yeah, I accidentally hit the button. Anyway, I put a chair over your picture.
Oh, I'm in chair now.
Yeah,
Oh, you can use my real life photo. I don't mind.
it's all right.
Okay.
It's okay. I put a chair. I put a chair. So if you,
I don't mind. That's why I made it my profile. Like, I really don't care anymore. It's about that. I'm starting to realize too. Like, man, like, why do I need to care about like hiding my online identity? My I'm not like any different of a person online than I am offline. Like, I love it or hate it. I just am who I am. So I just maybe start to do that a lot soon. More of that crossover.
true. Look at that. Oh, I can see your chair on my stream.
Glorious chair.
I mean, I don't. It's like an office chair though, like a Herman Miller kind of. So I don't. It's not like a
Very
gaming
fancy.
chair or a professional chair.
Executive chair.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, today we're gonna talk about episode 7 and 8 of The Penguin because we talked about all the other ones already. But yeah, we didn't.
Maybe some news.
There's really not
Maybe.
that much new. I mean, there's some stuff. There's a couple things we can quickly like run through. But we didn't podcast last week because it was Thanksgiving and
Yep. Thanksgiving.
and then next week.
Is War of the Rohirrim.
Thursday. Yeah, next Thursday we're gonna see War of the Rohirrim. So we can either reschedule for whatever. Who knows? Well, we can do like Friday or Wednesday or who knows.
We'll play it by ear. But I'll have the so.
Yeah.
And then we had an earthquake today. I don't know. Did you feel it up there? It was off the
No.
coast of Eureka, around like just like south, a little bit
like
south
by
of
Humboldt.
Eureka.
Yeah,
but
no,
apparently, like, it was a really big earthquake for those people that lived out there. They really felt it, and we all got tsunami warnings because, obviously.
Yeah, it was out in the ocean. It wasn't like in.
Yeah, exactly.
It wasn't like on land, but yeah, the tsunami warnings were out for like 3 hours, and then they're like, never mind, no big deal.
Yeah. Well, that's what you got to do, like they don't.
Yeah.
It's not like they have like freaking drones monitoring every single part of the ocean to catch like, oh, hey, we finally found the tsunami wave coming in at us. They don't know like what's forming out there in the ocean.
Yeah.
They have some buoys and stuff, but other than that, like, they don't know if there's gonna be a massive tsunami after 7 because it was a big earthquake. Like 7.0 is a big one, right? Well, it's definitely one of the biggest earthquakes. Like I've heard of California in my time being alive.
It's
I think
it's the biggest I think in the last 30 years.
Yeah.
Or something
that
they said.
Yeah, because the only other one is like the El Cerrito one, or was that right? Before I was even born, that was like in 86, 87, I think that was. Yeah, so definitely a big earthquake, and I'm just glad everyone's safe. There wasn't any major devastation. All I see is like broken shelves and some shit fell off some places, but I'm just glad they're seeing that instead of just Eureka being devastated by a freaking massive like tsunami or something like that. So thankfully, everything turned out for the best.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, count your blessings. We keep dodging the big one. we keep dodging it.
Yeah, I mean,
for those of you that don't know, if you don't live in California, the big one is like since me and Cage both went to through the public education system in California, and we've done nothing but, I think we've done at least 1 or 2 earthquake drills a year when I was in public school and elementary school and high school and everything like that. Because like California, and they don't do earthquake. We don't do tornado drills, right? But we do earthquake drills, right?
Well, I think that's the difference here, Mr. Chair,
Yeah,
is that I only spent 1 year in elementary school in California. I spent the other 6 in the Midwest doing tornado warnings.
Tornado warnings. Yeah, it was probably the same thing, right? Get under your desk and fucking hope.
No, there's like you have to go to like certain rooms that have no windows.
Okay.
Yeah, you don't go under your desk. Yeah, with tornadoes, there's like you either go to the gym where there's no windows, or you go like into like a basement or something.
Yeah, because in the Midwest they have a lot more basements. Like we don't have basements out here in California.
Like if you're in a grocery store, you go to like a back room or something.
Yeah,
just like a place with no windows.
Yeah, exactly.
And if you're in your house, you go to the bathtub in the bathroom. You'd get in the bathtub when there was tornado warnings.
I said the same thing about earthquakes too. Get in the bathtub, because it's like a little structurally sound and like if it falls, like it falls through the floor to like catch you or some shit. I don't know. But
Yeah.
so it's just anyway. Well, that being said, though, we had earthquake drills like my entire life growing up out here in California, like once or twice a school year, because California is on a giant fault line. Like I look out of my window and I see hills going between me and the San Francisco Valley. That's two tectonic plates smashing up against each other. Eventually, one of them loses or wins that classic battle, and then there's an earthquake. As one inducts under the other. So
Yeah. Well, they have
it's
been warning about the big one for the past 100 years in
for
California.
years.
So,
Yeah, that we're due for like a super massive earthquake because all the different fault stresses we have out here and stuff like that. I don't really know. It seems like geological doomsaying. We'll just see what happens when it happens.
oh yeah, I
Like
mean
it's
it's the
the thing about
same thing
natural
with like
disasters.
we're gonna be underwater, and that's been happening since the
Yeah,
'60s or '50s. Like they've been saying, oh, in 20 years, in 30 years, well, I'll be underwater in California.
yeah,
Still hasn't
yeah.
happened. So
And the super volcano in Yellowstone and all that kind of stuff. That happens. It happens. It's just the planet we live on. Natural disasters. It's just human beings have been dealing with it our entire lives.
yeah, and
So again, just thankful.
we
Go
act
ahead.
like we are the all powerful beings. For some reason, our egos are so large that we can control Mother Nature.
Yeah.
Yeah, nope, that's not how it
Yeah,
works.
like some people, like I said, some people on social media have said, well, why'd they put the tsunami warning out and have us evacuate? And they said, never mind. Well, it's because they don't know. Because they don't know if a tsunami's forming. The ocean's really fucking big. It's hard to track a wave, a single wave, big wave from orbit.
Big
It's just
wave, big wave.
they don't know if there's a giant wave that's gonna come and smash in. But apparently it went somewhere else, or maybe it just broke up in the bays or something like that. I don't know. But there was no tsunami, and we're all really lucky for that. There wasn't even a storm surge. Like I remember during that Japanese tsunami that
Oh,
killed thousands of
ooh,
people because of was it like a 9.7 earthquake off the coast or something like that.
it was
Just
very yeah, it was
yeah,
massive.
crazy tsunami that hit Japan, specifically like I think the more northern parts of the island. Did horrible, devastating damage, and down here in California, we even got damage to Santa Cruz. They dealt with storm surge for like 5 days. So we're all lucky. I guess we're all safe, and it wasn't some biblical event, and it was just 7.0 magnitude earthquake happening out in the middle of the ocean. There's probably some big waves that smashed up, but nothing too bad. So
Yeah,
once again, we're all lucky.
yeah. Well, on the TV show topic, there's a lot of shows coming out right now, like a
Yeah, I
lot.
forgot all about Skeleton Crew. I forgot
Yeah.
all about it.
So the Skeleton Crew, which came out on Monday, the first two
Mm.
episodes, which is the new Star Wars show with Jude Law and a bunch of kids. Then there and then there's two HBO Max shows in November, mid-November. Dune Prophecy started. I don't know if you've watched any of
I
that.
I have no interest in watching Dune Prophecy right
Okay,
now.
same. And then today, Thursday, December 5th, the first
Mm.
two episodes, I think, of Creature Commandos dropped, which is the new
That's right.
DC,
DC show.
the first show or anything to come out for the new DC universe, led by
Mm.
James Gunn. So, Creature Commandos dropped a couple episodes today, so definitely have to watch those. All the reviews seem to be very positive. And same with Skeleton Crew. I want to hear your thoughts. I want to hear if you say the same thing that I think.
I didn't watch Skeleton Crew.
No, it's
So no.
okay. It's okay. Just generally, early reviews of the show have been very positive.
Mm.
But the one caveat every reviewer says is it looks like it was made for children. What are your thoughts
Mm.
on that?
Um. 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 Wow, the show that has the guy like the wizards with the laser swords, and they got guys say my empire is bigger and powerful than yours, and it has like this thing. It's called the Death Star, and it'll blow up your planets. Well, my guy has this thing called the Force, and he can use his Force to control the missiles and use his intuition to blow up your Death Star. Well, we got Star Destroyers, and then we got a Super Star Destroyer. It's like a Star Destroyer, but it's bigger than yours. And you know what? We got walkers, and we're gonna go to your little base. You know what? We're all going to get away because we have an ion cannon. It's this giant thing that like just disables things. And it's just
So what you're saying is, Star Wars has always been made for children.
yeah, at least Miyazaki said it, right? The guy who Studio Ghibli guy, right? children get it. They know how to tell good stories. That's how you gotta be with these kind of things, right? It's just yeah, no, it's just completely ridiculous absurdism, like science fun, dumb, dorky science fiction. It was never really seriously political until, like, I would say probably the first three movies. I mean, the prequel trilogy, is when it actually got a little political. Like the other times, just, oh, we're the, I just really feel like George Lucas, like, made American Graffiti, right? Had all the success in his life, and he's like watched all the other space, like, science fiction movies were coming out at the time, and realized that they all fucking sucked, and he could do something 10 times better, and he did, and he created one of the most successful movie franchises of all time,
Yeah.
right?
Well, I mean,
And
he
then right,
does say things like, the empire is based
mm,
off of Nazis, and that the rebellion is based off of Vietnamese troops during the Vietnam War.
mm,
But guess what, guys? Here's the thing. Here's my biggest the I don't. Every time people say, "Oh, there's like, these are so woke and blah blah blah, and they shouldn't put this in shows for kids and blah blah blah," right? Like, guess what? You know what kids see when they watch these things? None of what you're saying. Like, these are all
yeah,
like things that adults are pushing onto children. Like,
mm,
as a kid watching Star Wars, you never went, "Oh, guys, it's just like the Nazis in Vietnam, guys." Never. Like, bro, you're just like,
mm,
"Oh, this is cool. Look at this big boob in space blowing up other planets." Like,
yeah,
like, you just think it's cool. Like, that's what Star Wars is to kids. And kids watching all this new Star Wars stuff, they're not going,
mm,
oh my god, guys, they have two moms. Oh my god, they're forcing gayness onto me as a child. Kids don't think that
mm,
way. Like that, these are adults who are telling their kids, look at what Star Wars is doing. They're ruining our kids. Kids don't think like that.
mm.
Sorry, they don't.
No, they don't. All right, like maybe they do a little now because there's social media and then they're just chronically online, but that's a very few subset, right? Like most of them are just
Yeah,
gonna do whatever's popular or whatever they see online, like on the internet that's cool and stuff. So
yeah. Well, definitely more teenagers would think stuff like that, but like
yeah,
7 and 8 year olds watching Star Wars aren't thinking like that.
no, yeah, no, they're just thinking cool space lasers, explosions, like,
Yeah,
oh wow, Darth Vader was Luke Skywalker. Spoilers, guys. Darth Vader is Luke Skywalker's dad.
yeah.
So, it's just cool stuff, like simple stuff like that. So
To
yeah,
TV
no, Star
shows,
Wars
and
is
then
like, Star Wars. Star Wars can also be for adults too. Like Andor was a very adult show, right? Like it had the
yeah,
implication of sex, but like that's the good thing about it is that you can use it for whatever you want. But at the end of the day, this is freaking Disney, and they're gonna make things like the Mandalorian. I feel like was made to appeal to Clone War, like to the Clone Wars crowd, right? To like the hardcore Star Wars fans that like just really love the Star Warsy stuff, and they wanted to make a cool show, right? And like the Clone Wars got more serious as it went on. Like it went from being like, okay, you're an 11 and 12-year-old watching the show to like, okay, there's like 16 and 17-year-olds watching the show now, right? Like I think the Rebels and Clone Wars kind of made that transition over time too. Yeah, I just
yeah.
can't think of anything in Star Wars that's like super hardcore, gritty adult, like the way that these guys like describe it. Like because that's just not the
Yeah,
show, the
and
movie, you know.
there are people who do want that. And if they really want that, I mean, Andor is the closest thing you're going to get to an adult version of Star Wars, right? Like,
Exactly. Yeah.
most Star Wars is not for, like, its general audience is not, you know, 25 to 44 demographic adults, like males, whatever. Like that's where the money is. But it's like the reason why the movies are successful is because people grow up with it and they take their kids to go see it and whatever. Like, it is for kids. Like, kids are full of wonder and imagination, and that's what the appeal is. So yeah, like, adults of course can enjoy it too and benefit from all that, but it's not necessarily made for you as an adult. So
Mm.
anyway, yes. There's not a whole lot of other news really. I mean, there's some random stuff I just don't care about it. So let's
Yeah.
talk about the Penguin.
Yeah, and we're lucky to be, in the content right now, or it's just there's a lot of stuff for us to talk about. Cause I didn't like, that we don't have to watch things like, doing prophecy, just like talk about how much we hate it, you know. Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, they put the animated versions of The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings on HBO Max now as well.
Mm,
Um, for
really?
people who care about those. Yeah.
Check that
Yeah.
out one of these days.
Yeah, there's a delay on my end. I'm
No.
delaying like 3 or 4 seconds.
Oh, I can see it now. Yeah, too.
Yeah, it's okay. It's all right. I'll
We're
end the
not. We're
stream to
not.
hopefully fix that. So
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, yeah. Anyway, so now we're back,
We're back.
normal, no stream. So
No stream.
yeah,
Back
hopefully
normal.
that'll fix
Still
some
see,
things.
still seems like there's a bit of a delay.
Yes, it's like
Yeah.
2 seconds.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
But the Penguin
Um,
final season.
yes, yes. Final episodes of the Penguin, episodes 7 and 8. And yeah. Show was very good. This was a very
It
good show.
was. Yeah, it was fantastic through and through. No complaints. Great pacing. Great acting. Great characters that you really enjoyed and engaged with. Had something for everybody. Just really good. You know?
Yeah. I mean, really, I think the strength is in, like you said, like the pace, the tone, and then just the character development as well. It was a well structured story. It was a well told story. It was a well executed story.
Mm,
And yeah, they really what it is. It's not really a superhero show,
mm.
and it doesn't really need to be, right? It's more like a mob crime boss kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly.
And
It's like The Sopranos. That's how it
yeah,
was described to me. It's kind of like The Sopranos, but like with a DC setting.
yeah, or like Goodfellas or something. Is that a thing? Did you
Hmm.
say Goodfellas?
Goodfellas kind of. Definitely compare it to more like The Sopranos than anything else. Like really would compare it to The Sopranos.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean more or less, right? You have these crime bosses or criminals that are all trying to make a name for themselves. They all want power in whatever way they can get it.
Hmm.
And Penguin is no exception to that. Penguin, in fact, is driving most of the plot because he takes a lot of agency and he does a lot of different things to not. I mean, he's not doing it to drive the plot, but right, he's trying to become somebody and become something. And really, in these last couple episodes, by the way, spoiler warning, we're gonna spoil things. But yeah, in the last couple episodes, you really see more of the why behind it. We kind of get implications earlier in the season. You know, he talks about Rex Calabrese a lot, and he talks about, you know, you can see how when people say, you know, make certain assertions about him, he gets really mad. Um, and really, like in the final couple episodes, you kind of see that the reason he's doing it is because he wants his mom's approval and he wants to you know earn her love and respect, and maybe part of that is because he murdered his brothers on accident on purpose. But yeah, no, there's a lot of great character work in this show as well.
Yeah. On accident, on purpose. Like I think that they left that kind of like ambiguous, like that he was just a mentally unwell child that like just like he had his they were playing in a place that was dangerous, so they had an older brother with them. Like they shouldn't be playing like games that like you can make that argument too. Like in that when they were in that when she was thinking about maybe having her kid whacked. She was thinking about like he's just a kid, which is interesting like a little appeal you can make because maybe he was just a dumb kid. Maybe he would have turned out different if his brothers were around and helped him like be able to detach from his mom a little bit. It's hard to tell. But it's just everything how it ends is like with all his family dying and spoilers like major spoilers by the way if you haven't watched Penguin yet like I think the pinnacle of the episode is where he kills like Vic. He murders Vic like in cold blood because he
Yeah,
doesn't want any more emotional connections. And
yeah,
he
because
does
it's a
that.
weakness, right?
Yeah, exactly. He didn't want family weakness or anything like that. He didn't want any of that stuff like on his conscience because of what happened with his mom. Like you're right, he just realized like how susceptible he was to her. And also, I believe in his own fucked up way, he's always kind of looking out for number one, right? That's just how he is. So,
Yeah,
I think in his own fucked up way, with his mom being kind of comatose now, Vic was really like the last person that he felt like any kind of like maybe emotional attachment to. He's like, all right, I don't need Vic anymore. Then it's just 100% me all the time because my mom's like in a coma and I don't need to like think about her or worry about her anymore because like, but half of Vic's job was taking care of his mom in the first place. Um,
yeah. I do. I
so
do.
go ahead.
wonder, like, do you think that when at the end Penguin and Vic are sitting out there like just looking over the the bay or whatever, um, that Penguin knew the whole time he was going to kill him, or do you think it was like something that Vic said that triggered him to say, I can't have this weakness, I need to take care of business right now?
I feel like it was a bit of both, right? Because I feel like too, like in the first episode, the penguin was gonna kill Vic, but then there wasn't the subway train, right? To cover the sound of the gunshot, right? And so it was a little lucky for Vic. So the penguin, I think, decided to keep, that's when he decided to keep him around too. And then Vic started actually doing good for the penguin and started being one of his right hand mans. Because again, Vic doesn't have any fucking, literally has no attachments. He's a lot like the penguin in a lot of ways, right? Because all his parents and his family died in a giant like terrorist incident caused by like a maniac.
The Riddler, yes.
The Riddler. Yep, the Riddler. And I just, I, it's hard to tell, and that's why this is such a good series, right? Because the motivations are buried and varied in very many of them. There's like a lot of different things going on here. The Penguin has a lot of different like motivations and is thinking about a lot of different things. So it's just, I just think it's good for,
Yeah. Well, you also
yeah,
have uh, Sophia's story as well.
yep,
And
all
of
that
course
was great.
yep, she realizes at a certain point that like she doesn't need to get the drops business and all that shit and the get Bliss back. She needs to start doing things a little differently. She partnered up with Salvatore, but then instead of going and confronting Penguin, she just blows up the whole operation, which ends up being a mistake because it allows Penguin. Well, he kills Salvatore, and then he also manipulates the whole story into, negotiating with a councilman to get them both more power, which is also, it's pretty smart. It's pretty smart. But Sophia's story ultimately culminates with her back in Arkham, and she gets a letter from Selena Kyle, also known as a Catwoman, played by Zoe Kravitz in The Batman, who in that movie is, she's also Falcone's daughter.
Yep.
Because is she a child of rape, or was that, or I don't remember. I don't remember from that movie if like he like raped her mom, or if it was like
I think he murdered her. I think it was a little bit, it was just a really bad situation. I
yeah,
think it's a
it's
good way
just
to
like
put it.
one of his bastard children. But yeah,
Yeah.
Catwoman and Sophia are half sisters, so
Yep.
she wrote a letter, and and
Indeed.
yeah, now
And
Penguin
there's a lot of
is fully in power.
yep. He's like one of the biggest crime bosses in London. What the fuck? In
In
Gotham.
Gotham.
Yeah. In
Yes, and
Gotham.
he earned his superhero suit in the end. Well, not his comic book suit, his full on comic book accurate suit with the top hat
Yep.
and the umbrella and everything.
Yep. I bet in the next one he's definitely gonna shoot that cane for sure. You got
Yes.
to. It's gonna happen. I'm sure. Whatever happens next, there's gonna be a cane involved.
Yeah, and he finally achieves his promise to his mom of getting her the highest of high rises in the city, overlooking everything. Even though she's pretty comatose and she hates him and everything about him.
Yep.
And yeah, so a couple things. One, he would rather let his mom get her finger chopped off than admit to allowing his brothers to die.
Yep.
Don't know why. There's a lot of psychological things you could analyze there.
Yeah.
But
Exactly.
also the thing with Eve, I think she's a prostitute of some sort. It's kind of revealed that he views her kind of as a surrogate for his mom.
Yeah.
And like straight up at the end of the series, like she's kind of dressed in the same dress that his mom wore when they went to Monroe's that one night where Rex was supposed to kill him but didn't. he's making her tell him how much she loves him and how she's proud of him. Like she's just straight up his mom. It's very disturbing.
Yeah, well, I think it's like a psychological thing for sure, like a weird psychological thing. Because again, we talked about this a little bit like the last episode, where a lot of Batman's villains, like in addition to him beating the snot out of them with his cool kung fu action grip and his cool gadgets, he like psychoanalyzes them, right? And he deposits them in Arkham. It's like, oh, you got a classic like psychopathic, sociopath, blah blah blah, kind of like paranoia type, whatever the fuck, you know. Like he keeps depositing them in Arkham because like that's just who he is. Like he believes in the system, right? So he like psychoanalyzes them. So I'm sure like it's not lost that there's like a level of psychological kind of like stuff mixed in with the Penguin, because again, like I just feel like this part's like it's part of the bat it's part of kind of like a Batman villain like experience. They're kind of like mentally unwell individuals. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Well. Yeah. Um. But also at the very, very end, we do see the bat signal in the sky.
Yeah.
Um,
Yep.
and so it kind of answers the questions of the critics who were saying after episode 7, well, a bomb just went off in the east side of Gotham. Where the fuck is Batman? Like, how can the show justify Batman not showing up when something like that happens? Well, they can justify it in any number of ways. Here's the thing, like, with comic book adaptation fans and stuff, like, they tend to think very single-mindedly or very narrowly, and I don't mean that like in a bad way. Like I used to think that way too, like early on in the MCU, like when a movie was announced. So like when Iron Man 3 was coming out and they said the Mandarin was going to be in it, I was like, okay, well, here are the stories with the Mandarin in it, and here's what's probably going to happen based on that. And then I watched the movie and I was very disappointed because it was bullshit. But
Yeah.
like when you're familiar with comic books in a certain way, like you expect things, or you expect things to happen in a way that you're familiar with, and you don't consider that literally anybody can do whatever they want, and you can explain it in a way that makes sense to the general audience. So like we talked a little bit about it last time, but like, where is Batman? Why did Batman not show up? Batman could be anywhere. He could be doing anything. There could be any number of reasons why he wasn't available to go help people during this bombing in the east side of Gotham, right? They can explain that
Yeah.
easily.
And to like the
And they're
Penguin was
showing at the
operating like a
very
really
end.
the Penguin was
Go
operating
ahead.
at really deeper levels too, right? Really deeper levels than like the average like street criminal, right? Like he's kind of like the underground mastermind. Like it's the kind of thing that Batman needs to do, like investigations and like detective eyes and determine like the identity and like case him and all that kind of other crap. He did a little bit of that in the Batman, but I just think they're gonna more of it now because he's gonna see him not as like the club owner of like the iceberg, but as like this powerful like underboss who basically has like an iron grip control of Gotham's like underground crime scene and like the drug trade and all that kind of stuff.
Well, who's now in more of a public position of power as well. Like,
Mm,
it would be hard for Batman to really move against the Penguin at this point in a public way,
yeah,
because I mean he's got a position of power in City Hall essentially.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
but also like with the bat signal in the sky at the end, they're showing that like you know Gotham is now calling for his help, and
Mm,
maybe they didn't call for him right away, right? Like, and maybe that's why he didn't show up. Like, maybe he could be somewhere. He could be anywhere. He could be stopping other crimes in other places. Like, there's any number of reasons why Batman might not be there. But the primary reason is because this is not Batman's show. This is Penguin's show.
yeah, exactly. And it leads good into the next series, whatever's coming next. I'm sure there's going to be a second Penguin or anything like that. I'm not sure. Um, yeah, we'll just wait and see what happens. With this character that they made in this series that was very well received online. There was almost universal praise of it. Rio and I both watched it. We both really enjoyed it. Rio was really putting herself on the races to stay up late to watch it with me. Because I'd be like,
Yeah.
okay, okay, just one more episode. I'd be like that a couple times. And it's
Yeah.
y- it's It's just a really great show. Again, it's one of those sleeper hits. It feels a lot. It has like a lot of Andor energy, if that makes sense to you. Where it's just like, yeah, man, like it's just show like the side series where they had a kind of okay budget, but there was like no corporate oversight because corporate overlords are a bit too busy, like over in the Black Adam camp, trying like harassing people, and Dwayne the Rock Johnson was telling people he's the Rock, so he needs to be the most important person on the set and the character and all this stuff, and how he's gonna upset the balance of power in the DCEU. And then the Penguin comes out of nowhere, and it's like literally like the best thing. And the Batman is like came before, which was also really fucking good, right? Like people keep
Yeah.
talking. The people keep talking. I keep talking about this, right? Like, how do you know a show's good? People are still talking about it after, right? When I'm scrolling Instagram Reels, like I get a whole lot of Reels. I get everything from food to memes to frontline reporting on like graphic war reporting where you're like really on the front lines of everything, like all kinds of. I got a whole kind of political stuff, all kinds of things, right? But I also get like a lot of media news, like what movies. And one thing that keeps coming across my feed every like once a week or once every 2 weeks or something like that is people talking about how awesome that Batmobile scene was from the Batman. The sound of
Hmm.
that thing, like the sound of the bat, like the jet engine, like on the fucking back of the Batmobile. It was badass and it was cool, and that whole sequence was really fucking cool. That chase was awesome. It felt very realistic, and it was just cool seeing like it's almost because it was like a prototype version of the Batmobile, right? And I feel like when like in the Batman 2, we're gonna get like a really cool like fucking long body like jet engine car that's like just super badass or something like that. Not like the tank we got before, but something that's a lot more like comic book kind of close to comic books.
Yeah, there was some news saying that James Gunn did consider
Mm.
bringing in Robert Pattinson's Batman as his Batman for the DC universe. I didn't read it, so I don't know why he decided not to. But ultimately, he decided not to. But that it'll still exist in its own side universe. So
Yeah, exactly. Like it was obviously very popular, very well received. So I don't see why they wouldn't make a second one, or and the Batman is coming out, part two is coming out next year, or is that 2027? Nobody knows.
no idea.
Okay.
No idea. But the Joker was also very successful, and they made a second one of that, and that didn't turn out too well. So
Well, that's true, but they're not trying to make this into a musical, so at least there's that.
hopefully, yeah,
Hopefully, yeah.
yeah.
And I've been some people theorizing that it's all gonna tie back into the Court of Owls or some stupid shit because of like masks they've seen in the
Yeah.
background of like certain things and stuff like that. And then all of a sudden I saw this Instagram reel that was just like all the really cool all the best comic book panels from the Court of Owls, and like wow, that looked like a really good fucking comic book series, like really fucking good.
Yeah, there's a couple of them. I mean, there's a
Mm,
couple very important major runs with the Court of Owls.
mm.
Um,
And the art
and
though is
one
just
of the
beautiful. Like it's kind of like secret society supervillain stuff. It just looks really fucking cool.
yeah,
Yeah.
I think Greg Capullo did a lot of the art for on a Scott Snyder's run on
Mm.
Batman with Court of Owls. Yeah, that nobody knows what I'm talking about if they don't read comic books. But yeah, it's
Yeah,
very
I
good.
don't,
It's
but
very
I
good.
just yeah, in the art, it's just from looking at the art, like it looks crazy. Like I saw him in one panel, he's like standing on the like balcony and saying, "Now go take over Gotham," and you're seeing like all the owls take off in the freaking distance, and like images of like an owl like graspfully like grabbing like a bat between his talons and like eviscerating and shit like that, like all kinds of cool stuff. So
Yeah,
yeah.
Gotham, the TV show, did a version of Court of Owls.
Mm.
Um,
Never watched Gotham. Should I have,
so
or is that not?
some of it's good and some of it's not so good. It's one of those
Mm.
shows that's really hit or miss.
Got it.
I don't know if I would recommend sitting down and watching all of it. If you haven't watched all the Agents of Shield, I would recommend that.
Okay. I watched all of Agents of Shield, so.
Yeah, Ghost Rider and Agents of Shield, that was next level at the time.
Yep.
That was really
That was cool.
Robbie Reyes, oof,
Remember when Agents
fan
of
of
Shield
that.
was like the most important thing instead of a bunch of things that didn't happen lead to anything? Like isn't half of Agents of Shield retcon by now?
I don't know if it's retconned, but a lot of it also led to nothing. Um,
Yeah.
to me, it's not a problem because, of course, like what they're doing isn't gonna affect stuff on a higher level, right? Like it's like the shit rolls downhill. So like the stuff that like Iron Man and Cap and the Avengers are doing, of course it's gonna roll down and affect them. But the things they're doing, it's not gonna roll up and affect any of the movies or anything. And we shouldn't have ever expected it to. But yeah, it was just good for what it was.
Yep.
So, also there is one piece of news. Daredevil Born Again will have a significant time jump from the Netflix series, so it won't pick up right away. There will be a time jump. That's it. That's the news.
Well, that's all. Wow, I feel more informed now. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Yep.
But yeah, I guess just to wrap it up, with Penguin, we mentioned Andor as well. Like the similarity between the shows is that both are just very gripping. Like they get a hold of you and they keep you there, and they're like you're just
Absolutely.
there.
Season 2 of Andor's coming out next year. So that's something to look forward to in 2020, 2025. In addition to the chaotic political situation. So there's that coming too. So 2025 is gonna be a really interesting year. I'm prepared. I got a lot of weed stocked. I got a lot of weed stocked up. I stocked up on some weed just in case.
Are you stocking up on anything else?
Water, and that's about it, man. I'm just gonna get high and then die and slowly die from lack of food or something. I don't fucking know.
My wife is full on. I need to buy this now just in case tariffs kind of vibe,
Yeah, I don't do that because I have all my computer parts all purchased already, thankfully, and then I shop Intel, so Intel thankfully makes everything in the US of A, so that won't be tariffed, thankfully. But Nvidia cards will, so Intel better be working on that GPU card. Yeah, Nvidia is a South Korean company.
Well, because South Korea is the only one that can make them. That have the
no, that South Korea and Taiwan have really good chip fabricators,
Taiwan,
but we're building them, but we're still 5 or 6 years away from being massively online like the way Taiwan is, right? Taiwan like has some of the like just most productive microchip fabricators in the world. And then it's followed by South Korea, and then when we get ours online, I think that'll immediately become America because we have like this thing called a giant desert. And there's a lot of space to build there. And Taiwan is a tiny little island, so we're just building a factory that is like almost as big as mainland Taiwan.
As the country.
So,
yeah.
So, and then we're just staffing it with Americans that want good paying jobs, like, and have electrical engineering degrees and all this kind of other stuff. And like, and so, yeah, you should look up. And the Intel factory is really cool. It's gonna be patrolled by robot dogs for patrol. So it's gonna be like the world's first cyberpunk factory. I'm really looking forward to it. Maybe I can get a job there or something like that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the things that are going to be very impacted by tariffs are things that you can't really stock up on, like bananas. Like,
yeah,
like there's not a single banana that is produced in the United States.
Yeah, avocados. You grow a lot of them in Mexico.
I mean, you can get avocado. You can get avocados like domestically, like we can actually make them or grow them here in at least in California.
Yeah, but we don't have the climate for bananas.
Yeah, the difference with bananas, we don't grow a single banana in the United States of America. But yeah, clothes as well. I think 85% of all clothes made in the entire world are
come from China.
All the clothes purchased in the United States, 85% of it comes from another country.
Yeah, exactly. So. Like, and I don't know. I'm not. Maybe this will be me being like, angsty fucking communist son of a bitch, but I'm not fucking weeping tears over big fashion like losing out, right? Because you look at landfills. What's in most landfills? There's a bunch of fucking cheap, shitty graphic T-shirts and shit like that from, the popular thing. There's a lot of waste involved in like the system we have right now. We're not dealing with it, and landfills keep getting bigger, and it's just, I just. Interested to see how things shake out next year. We'll see that. Like,
if tariffs go through the way they're gonna go through, cost of goods will go up significantly. That's the truth of it.
Yeah. And then we hear, and people are gonna keep getting angry too. Like with that guy that health CEO that got shot in front of that building. Have you read about that story at all?
Yes.
Yeah, dude, like the guy carved like, like deny, like defend and like deter like on the fucking bullet casings and stuff like that, right? Like the more angsty people get because things get more expensive, the more regular people are going to lash out. Like that's the one thing I don't understand about like how rich people like interact with the country, right? Like everyone's like armed to the teeth. So it's
the
just
yeah
he's
the
like,
the the only like so for people who are full on like freaking out about next year and all the
yeah,
things that Donald Trump might do, the only real I'm not going to tell you not to worry. I'm just going to tell you the only real like relief maybe I could give you is that despite everything, there are people in Congress who want to be reelected, and they're not going to pass wildly unpopular things uh,
yeah.
because they want to get reelected.
And with
So there,
Matt
it's not
Gates
going to
out of
be
Congress, Matt Gates is out now, right? He's fucking gone
yeah.
now because he made a lot of bad choices, and you know
He's an awful, horrible human being.
that's what yeah, that seems to be the consensus, is that nobody likes him, and being, I don't know if you guys realize this, but being a politician is really a relationship based kind of thing. And when you burn all of the bridges around you in the name of your own, like for the sake of your own, like I don't even fuck your pride, I guess. Like he was just like, it just looked really bad, and I just think that he fumbled his political chances a lot. Because there's some interesting things about Matt Gates said about, like, big corporations, for instance. I think maybe you and I would probably say the same things, right? When companies get too big, they start treating people like shit, just like big governments, right? Because it's just what people with too much power do. They go around and try and treat people like shit so they can keep what they see as theirs. Um, but at the end of the day, yeah, Matt Gates is gone. The Freedom
Yeah,
Caucus is going to be headed up by someone else. The Freedom Caucus is no real power, and they only have the Republicans only have hold on to the House by one seat. By one seat. Okay, that is basically as close to deadlock as you can get without it being an even split, right? Like that's just like
yeah.
okay,
Well,
51% versus 50%, right? That's not much of a fucking difference. And the
even
only
if
difference is you're.
Republicans
Go ahead.
controlled all of Congress,
Mhm.
like it doesn't mean that everything Donald Trump wants is just gonna go through. Because again,
Yeah.
like these people want to get reelected. You start putting, bless you, you start putting illegal immigrants in concentration camps in the United States of America. None of these people are getting reelected. Like this is the like. There's history here, and people will not
Yeah.
stand for the
It'll
majority of
be
people
just
will
like
not stand for this kind of stuff.
yeah, if he like it'll be just like what happened in South Korea, okay? Like that martial law
The
that was
martial
declared
law
2
thing.
days ago. Yeah, dude, did you see it? Like there were thousands of hundreds of thousands of regular people on the streets. Like you can't fucking tell me what to do, where to go, or like this
Yeah.
is a problem. Like it's like people are so dumb. This is the problem with like
Well, and
tyrants. Like I read.
their parliament immediately was like, no, like bro, you're losing your mind.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is, and this is what happens because again, like this is unfortunately like, a system that's built into our form of government, is that the executive has complete and total control over the military, right? Like so the military will start working on the orders as it gets right away before morality and things start coming in the way, right? Like they won't start thinking about these things until like, well, I don't want to fucking gun down civilians and shit like that, like when they were ordered to the Parliament building and everything
Well,
like that.
they can't.
They, yeah,
They can't hear. Like the U.S. military cannot operate within the United States like legally,
yeah, it's
and the Joint
illegal.
Chiefs would not
Yeah.
stand for it.
Exactly. And but that's what he's saying is he's gonna do, right? He's gonna like go through cities looking for illegal immigrants and stuff like that. And
It's not
exactly,
gonna.
this is like
It's
what happened. This is what happened in 2016. He said a bunch of shit, and then he came in, and then he governed kind of like a moderate Republican. Like, just,
yeah. He did a
but
lot
it
of things
wasn't
that
normal.
didn't work. He did some things that
Yeah,
did work, but
yeah.
like it wasn't until COVID where he completely lost his mind and started doing the most outrageous shit.
And, and how do you respond to COVID? That's the thing. Like, I think everyone would have responded poorly to COVID because the whole world went into lockdown, right? That was like the thing. Okay, we're all doing our own
Sure,
lockdown.
but
Let's do
then when
our
he lost
lockdown
the
too.
election, I mean, like,
Yes, and then Stop the Steal happened, and that was just when he was going ballistic. And then January 12th, and again, like we're just like people don't understand about like Trump rallies and stuff like that. People get so fucking drunk at these political rallies, guys. You do not understand like how you think they're standing. You think these people in Michigan are standing out till 10 p.m. at night to watch Trump? No, they're there because they're partying with their friends and they're drunk as fuck, right? Like at all these political
well, I
rallies, all
mean,
these people are just getting wasted. And it's just like,
yeah,
that's like what happened on January 10th. Like a drunk, angry mob took over the freaking Capitol building because Trump had him down there because you got him all whipped up. That's what he does. He whips people up. So I don't know.
yeah. I mean,
This is
there
like,
are people that are just genuinely fucking like they idolize politicians for one reason or the other.
yeah.
Everyone in
And on
power
the other,
in Congress, whatever, they're all scummy, all of them.
Yeah, and dude, like, dude, like the way, like, it's not even like the way, right? Like the way leftists are talking about Trump coming in the office, like, oh, on day one he's going to use the military to shut down all freedom of thought and everything, and he's going to instill himself as president for life, and there will be martial law in every city, and all the gays will be dragged out and dragged against a wall and shot, and all this crazy stuff, right? And then all these like right wing guys are like, as soon as Trump gets in, man, it's America first again. Gas is going to be 99 cents a gallon. Everything's going to be cheap again. Cheeseburgers, the McDonald's value meal will actually have dollar worth. The dollar menu will come back with actual dollar items on it. You know, like that's like there's like it's just
Yeah.
dumb prognosticating. Like that's not going to happen either. It's just not. It's not how politics
The thing
work.
is, people just need to
Here's
live
what
their fucking lives.
I think 2020 personally, I think 2025 is going to be defined by a giant political disaster. What happens when a bunch of commercial loans come due for a bunch of buildings all over the country at once. That's just me. But you know, and then Trump is going to try and blame the Joe Biden fucking. It was a disaster economy. I inherited a disaster from Joe Biden. You know, and they're just going to do that, and then they're just going to be the same shit, different day.
Yeah, people need to stop this whole the economic cycles are like 4 to 8 years and like blah 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 blah. Like
It's boom and bust.
you
It's just boom and
you
bust.
know what? You know what? Bill Clinton inherited a good economy, and guess what? He didn't ruin it. He gets credit for that.
Mm,
like
yeah.
you can ruin an economy even if you inherit a good one, and you can turn around a bad one that you inherit. Like we need to stop this. Well, Trump's economy was actually Obama's economy and blah 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 blah. Like
Yeah. Exactly.
the economy is good or it's bad, and the policies that are passed while someone's president can make it better or worse.
Yeah.
And here's the thing. I just want to get this off my chest. One of the biggest problems with the Democratic Party is that they sat there and told you every economist says we have one of the best, most thriving economies there is. You are so out of touch that you don't understand that the people spending money are the richest 1% of people. Everyone else is struggling. Wages are up, guys. Wages are up. Yes, prices are up more. Inflation builds upon itself. It compounds on itself. People making listen, like the wages are up because minimum wage has gone up, but everyone else's wages stayed the same. And rich people's wages have gone up, but everyone else's wages in the middle class that keeps diminishing stayed the same. Nobody can afford anything. If you look at median home prices in Northern California, most of them are over $700,000. It's ridiculous.
You know, and it just comes down to like, you know, you don't make all those macro examples, but look at the micro examples. Like you and your wife, like, you know, your wife was working at some point. I mean, she's not working now probably because she's stressed because
No, she's working now.
Okay, well, she's working great. You guys are both a working couple. Like back in the 60s and 70s, you two would have been easily been able to like working full time. Just think about it, right? It's 1 to 1. You're both working full time, 40-hour week, like 40 hour both, right? Normally, in any situation in the 70s, you both would have been able to combine your salaries and buy a house, no problem. Now you have to jump through 3 different hoops, and you need to do all these things, and you need to do all this financial planning because a lot of older people have turned their house into the biggest financial asset they have in their portfolio. And this has made housing such like a valuable asset over time that it is becoming something like a rich person bank. Like it's just ridiculous. And then like, you know, and then they buy houses in the centrals is where no one wants to live, and no one wants to live there. And it's just they keep getting more expensive in California because people want to live here. Like that's just what it is. Like the people that grew up here want to live in California, you know, and they're gonna
Well,
keep hanging on wherever
you
they
can't
can.
meet demand. That's the problem. Like,
Yeah.
you know, when you look at supply and demand, right? Like, okay,
Mm,
housing prices are up because we don't have enough housing. We build a bunch of
mm,
housing prices don't drop. Why? Because we still haven't met demand. Like,
yeah.
you can build as many apartments as you want, people still want to live there. Like, your demand
Yeah.
hasn't been met yet, so prices are still not gonna drop.
Yeah, you know, and because and the problem is, and this is me as a real estate agent. I am a licensed real estate agent in California, so I like, you know, there's marketers in real estate that are completely full of shit, and they're ones that I listen to. Like, look, man, like you know, the boom or bust cycle. That's like your lifeblood, right? Because like it or not, houses are a financial asset first and foremost. Like they started doing that in the 80s and the 90s is when they really started becoming a really important financial asset. And now we see in the post 2020 era that it's like the central asset for the vast majority of wealth and people in this country for like the average person, as the fact that someone in their family owns a home that will one day may potentially be theirs, right? And it's just like it's crazy that it's gotten that pack. But after what happened in 2008, we really used to build homes to meet demand, like you said, right? But after 2008, that stopped because it stopped, and then when it started back up again, there were all these new regulations and everything in place, and it became a lot more expensive. And a lot of people didn't want to deal with it because they don't like dealing with government agents and like Sacramento telling them what to do and how to build and stuff like that, right? You get the inspector come out, they say, okay, the structure is going to fall over, and it's like a standard house, right? And but now there's all these crazy things like the materials they can use, how much of that square footage needs to be taken up by the lot, all this other crazy shit, right? That makes wanting to get into this business not fun. It's like not an enjoyable business to get into, and everyone hates you, and it's just you know I we don't we really don't build houses like we used to, and that's like a serious problem. And I feel like that's just because again, like burdensome regulations, like okay, great, yeah, you're right. They shouldn't be dumping their excess cement in the river down the in the creek down the way because they don't want to take it down a dumping site. But also at the same time, that doesn't mean there should be like 15 different checkpoints. The freaking concrete truck needs to stop at the same way, like all this crazy shit, like all these standards and all this kind of stuff, right? Like there were things that they were doing in the 60s and 70s that were really fucked up. Like I did a brief internship for this little fun little law firm that was an environmental law firm. And what their niche was is they were going to people that used to live next to old car washes and ask them if they had specific health issues. Because these guys used to they used to like wash people's cars with back in the day, like in the 60s and 70s, were like straight dangerous forever chemicals, and then they would just dump them in fields. like, and then the field will be rotted and brown, and that's where we get this thing called the Brownsfield exemption, where it's if you buy land that's it's disclosed, hey, there was toxic dumping on this land. It's called a Brownsfield exemption, and you get a tax exemption for owning toxified land, right? And most of that land, it was old car washes dumping like their weird bleach mixture chemicals, like just in like empty land somewhere, right? They would just take their trunks, like, and they would take trucks and they would find like an empty spot of land off the road and they would just dump like chemicals into the groundwater. It's fucking crazy, right? People in the 60s and 70s were fucking insane. They used to paint
Yeah,
they used to paint their houses with lead, and it was in the water supply, and it was like it
it
was
was
in the
lead in
gas.
everything.
Yeah, dude, it
Yeah,
was
and
fucking crazy.
asbestos
Okay,
everywhere. Just little pieces of
there
plastic in your lungs all the
there
time.
is there is a legitimate reason for the EPA's existence. There is legitimate reason for watersheds to exist. There's legitimate reasons for all these. Like I hate like right wingers to go like, well, if all these regulations go away, people wouldn't just do these things. No, they would, because people, I don't know if you know this, are shitty and lazy and they don't care, and they like throw garbage out the
And they
window when
want to
they're
cut
driving in the
costs,
car.
and you want to make more
Yeah,
money.
you want to make money, make
Yeah.
money, make like that feels like
Why?
this thing like
It's funny. It's funny coming from politicians who like try to do anything they can to make as much money as possible and skirt all the rules, and they say, well, if we remove regulations, businesses totally wouldn't do that.
hmm.
But yeah, no, like these conversations, of course, probably require way more nuance than we give them because we just don't have time to really go in depth on all this shit. But to your point,
I
my
think it.
grandpa was a
Uh,
construction worker for 40 years, and
mhm.
they would go in and lay plumbing for potential future houses.
Mm,
And he would go on down there and he'd dig holes and lay the pipes and all that stuff. And he would always have environmentalists coming, like government environmentalists coming to the job site saying, "Oh well, you can't dig here because of the snakes. We need to protect the
mm,
snakes." And he would murder snakes in front of them and just say, we got to do our job. Get the fuck out of here."
yeah,
Like
at the end of
that
the
that
day,
like
like
in
the snakes will move. There's sad things that happen all the time, certainly with wildlife. But at the end of the day, human beings are a natural animal that evolved on this planet naturally. We are building our domiciles, which are essentially giant caves. Other animals in wild build tons of houses all the time. It's like telling, like fucking telling a bird you can't build your little nest here because it may upset the weevils on the tree, right? It's just you got to look at these things, and certainly we could do more to protect our environment while also building houses that people need. Also, there's another word called remediation. I don't know if you and I have driven to many parts of the Bay Area. There's a lot of shitty, old, rundown, dilapidated buildings everywhere that these companies just because of cost don't want to deal with. They don't want to spend money to tear down their shitty lead painted, asbestos lined warehouses. You know, they
Yeah.
just they'd
They're
rather it
actual
just sit
fucking
there.
like health hazard.
They'd rather it just sit there and rot away and bleed into the groundwater with every rain season and potentially burn down one day and still not do anything with this land. And that's
Well,
another
because
serious
they have it
problem.
insured, and then they can also use the depreciation on their taxes.
Yeah, and this is again just another thing we really need to deal with in this country is that, like, you're either using a building and the land that it's on, or you're not using it at all. You can't just have something fucking sit there and be useless, right? I just don't think we have, like, we need good land management.
Well,
There's a
legally they can.
Legally they can, but I think we need, here's the thing about the law is that the law can be changed. So that's what makes them laws. And the rights, you don't really have a right to property in this country. So it's every state has different property laws. Every state has there's just you don't have a right to property because there's a thing. It's called eminent domain. It's when the government's like, okay, we think that there's a more important pressing project that we need to use as, but it's a real thing that exists, right? And it's just there's a lot of ways to deal with things going on in this country. We don't deal with it because we don't have capable leaders because all the young people are too busy making money and like getting eaten alive by the rat race, and it's really depressing. And
You
again,
mean struggling to make money?
yeah, I feel like it's gonna be like I don't know. I feel like there won't be any major changes in this country until there's like there's a sudden mass rioting in like every major city like across the US. I just don't think that anything's really gonna change until there's like sudden violent rioting everywhere all at once. You know, I think
Yeah, well,
because
we don't
that's who
want that.
we don't, but I feel like that's the only way that's gonna any real change is ever gonna happen. Like, to the system to making it so that young people have places to move to where they're not constantly like having with the constant fiscal burden on their shoulders, while they're working 60-hour, 50-hour weeks, then going around and then older people are telling them that they don't work hard at all, stuff like that, right? And it's
Well,
just
young people are moving to places that are much cheaper, and then finding out that they're shitty places and they don't want to be there, and there's nothing to do, and it's boring, and life sucks, and everybody there just does drugs all
yeah,
the time.
yeah, and then when they try to build new things, all the old people tell them that they're communists and they're like hippie artists and they can't build this shit here, and that we're gonna get the community board together to stop you from building a new skate park or from building a dance club or from building this or from building that. It's like in Brentwood, like Brentwood,
It's like the
California,
plot of
right?
every '80s movie.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what it is, and it's just it's the song and dance, man. And I just something's got to break at some point. You can't really like you can't keep a cap on this for young people forever. There's gonna be some young person. There's gonna be another like hippie movement or something like that, right? That's what happened in the '60s. Is that all the young people threw their fucking hands up and they went to San Francisco to hang around, do drugs, and like take their, and have sex in the streets. And it's just I don't know. It's just it's a different
Yeah,
world
that
we're
happened in
coming into,
Rome too, and then the empire fell. So
Yeah, I just think a lot of my well, like a few of my pundits said this, but I feel like you and I, like our generations are just going to be materially worse off than our parents were. You know, I just think that's what it's
oh
going to
yeah.
be. And it feels like I could work my ass off, like my dad does, like my parents say, I could work like go get a real job and work like 100 hours a week and still not make enough money to be able to go out into an apartment and to like take 2 vacations a year and to like enjoy life. Like I would just be working and struggling and constantly being yelled at by someone who says they're my manager and like constantly being judged all the time by random strangers and having to deal with people every day that just want to treat you like shit because they're in a bad mood and this person has to treat me right because they're the representative of this company, so they need to be professional with me, so I can treat them like shit because they can't do anything back to me. Like
Well, yeah. I
it's
mean,
just
and that's not even considering the effect of credit card debt and major loans that most people in the United States are carrying at a young age. It's actually absurd. Um,
yeah,
but no, yeah. I mean, my wife and I combined make very decent money, or what you would think would be decent money. And yeah, we still struggle.
yep,
So
exactly. Like you have a good corporate job. Like even back in the '90s, you and your wife probably would have been in a much better situation again. Like you guys like there was a '90s.com crash, right? Like there was economic disaster like this, but there was always cheap places to live in this country. I feel like that was like a low key part of our social contract that went unlike to just something we didn't discuss. Like there's always somewhere in America cheap to lay your head, right? Like there used to be this culture in the 1800s, like in the 19th century, where people would just wander the country, right, and staying at different hostels and hotels and like knock on someone's front door is like, hey, can I borrow a room for a night? And I'll give you $5. I'm like, yeah, sure, whatever the fuck, come on in. Like, here's we'll have dinner. And I feel like that's just slowly going away, and everything's super expensive. And if you want to live anywhere, you got to plan it out 5 years in advance, and like everything's just a system that you're jumping into. And I just feel like that kind of really conflicts with the sort of freedom ethos, like the passion for freedom ethos that is supposed to be center of the core of the American philosophy, right? Like our ancestors are all people that fucked off into the wilderness because they hated civilization. That's just what it was. That's just who they were at the end of the day. And I feel like that really speaks to an important legacy of this country that we all forget, because we all are Americans at the end of the day. Like we all come, like all of our ancestors, or all of us came here for a very specific reason to get away, usually to get away from something else. And it's just rough, right? There's a lot of things in our social contract that I think that just aren't being addressed by the other side. At the end of the day, here's more of the angsty anarchist communists, but by the ruling class. They're just not treating us right? Like they're a thing. Like in America, people in this country do work hard, and they're supposed to enjoy really high quality of life. And like everyone I talk to, like that's under 30, is just they don't know how they're gonna do everything that they wanted to do in life, and it really sucks. Like even the ones that have good jobs, that are working full time, they just everything's a struggle. They're all renting. They don't think they could ever accumulate enough money, like to get enough cash to put $100,000 down on a $900,000 house where their parents grew up. It's just impossible. Like when people say that, like when other real estate when other realtors are like, well, they should just save enough money for a down payment. Like, what if they can't live at home because their parents don't want them living at home, because not all parents feel like that.
It's gonna take you like 20 years to save up that money.
Yeah,
maybe more.
Or you
like
you just live this super boring life where you deny all of the fun around you, which is like again a really big part of the American social contract, is that you get to have fun in this country. It's supposed to be a fun country where you get to go and you get to have fun, and you can go back to work, and you don't have to pick between buying a home and going out to have some fun.
Yeah, like to put it into perspective, maybe for people who don't know, like at least here in California, if I wanted to buy a house, with 3% down, the most affordable houses in my area, my mortgage would be around $3,000.
Yeah.
And I can't afford to pay almost half of our income for that mortgage for a house that's missing part of the floor, has holes all over the place. You can see the wood inside all the walls because they're missing. Like that's what I could afford on a $3,000 mortgage. Like that, like if that was my mortgage, that's the house I would get. Part of the house set on fire, flooded, missing ceilings, missing floorboards, missing part of the wall. There's no toilets. Like that's what I would have for half my income here in California.
Yeah.
Well, not my income, our income. I don't make $6,000 a month on my own after taxes. I only make $4,000 on my own after taxes.
Yeah, and back
which is a lot, which is good money.
Yeah. Even in the early 2000s, that would have been a really good job, but it's just not anymore. People just need to come to realize that fact, that it's just not the California you grew up in, and things are a lot more intense on young people than you realize. And just because you got all this cash and fiscal stuff stocked away doesn't mean other people do. And I think they forget the stress that finances causes. I really feel like a lot of people forget that stress. They forget how just it controls your life. Again, this dude shot this guy in cold blood. I really believe it was just in cold blood. Like he read the book and he was like, maybe he got denied coverage for health insurance because of the specific issue. Maybe his mother got denied health insurance because she couldn't afford insulin and she lost a foot and then she died. There could have been dozens of things that brought this gentleman to a place where I'm going to get a gun and I'm going to go shoot this motherfucker because I fucking hate him and I want people to know how much I hate him. I'm going to carve my fucking philosophy on the side of my bullets that are going to riddle this man's body to let everybody, so the police can find him, so that everybody can know I did this because he was part of the ruling class. That's why that happened, right? Like that just doesn't happen in a vacuum, right? This wasn't some, like, there's some conspiracy theory. This wasn't some paid assassin. This was some dude who was fed up, who was armed to the teeth. He had a silencer for his gun. That was one thing that was reported. He had a silencer for a sidearm, right? And that's just something up until the 90s you could just go buy wherever, which means there's probably hundreds of thousands of silencers blown around in this country at any given time. Or you can probably 3D print them, which is another thing that nobody ever talks about, right? and it's a really we're certainly entering into a very wild, unstable time in this country where economics are all over the place. It goes like Bitcoin's up 100,000. 9 or 8 months ago, it was down below 12 grand, right? It's so we're in a very wild, unstable economic place, politically, economically, geopolitically, which is another thing. So there's gonna be a lot going on next year. I feel we're probably gonna be having a lot of rants like this. Not that anyone's really listening. We're probably just talking. We're
We'll
probably
try
just
not
talking to
to.
each other. Yeah. But it's just we're really it's just something's got to give. I keep saying that. I'm gonna keep saying that. At some point, something's got to give. There's gonna be a mass rioting of people like somewhere where there's like mass death incident or mass death incident or something like that. Because at the end of the day, no one in this country really cares until some major big event happens. That's just what it comes down to, right? People didn't care about
Yeah, but
politics
if
until
you,
Donald Trump. Like it was just the status quo. Like people really didn't give a
yeah,
fuck about politics.
if you believe, if you believe Twitter conspiracy theorists, the
Mm,
United Healthcare CEO was shot and killed by the American government because he was going to expose them for something.
mm.
Mm-hmm. What do you think
Yeah,
about that?
yeah, I don't know about any of that. I just think that there's a bunch of angry young people in this country that have guns and like they read Secret Op Manual and they do jujitsu and they like know all these specific hobbies and skills like that and they train like they're soldiers and they're not actually soldiers and then they're online getting antagonized by like super rich people all the time. So I think the problem is going to get worse before it gets better. I feel like that what happened yesterday is probably just the tip of the spear for like again like just angst against the machine that's currently in place, and it's going to keep getting angsty. People are going to start taking a pipe to the machine. When it doesn't spit out the things they want, they're going to start kicking it. Um, you know, yeah,
Fair enough. All right. Well, I think that's everything that we have to talk about today.
yep.
Um, so we'll be back next week, maybe or maybe not. We'll see. See you then. Like, comment, rate, review, subscribe buttons. Bye.